Hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome back to On Your Mental. This is the podcast that shares candid, open, and sometimes vulnerable conversations between and about men. And this week, Kabir and I are joined by our friends Meghan and Meghan's friend Taisha, and we're talking about finding an outlet, an emotional outlet. Taisha is an art therapist, and so she's bringing her perspective to this conversation about the importance of finding an outlet that works for you. So I hope you all enjoy this week's conversation. If you're not already, make sure that you're subscribed, and if you like this week's episode, leave a like, and I'll see y'all in a moment when the episode starts. Peace. Anyways, before we get started, welcome, Taisha. You are, this is the first time I've met you.
Yeah.
So, I was going to say, I don't have any background here. I can't be like, oh, you're my friend from this is this.
Yeah.
No, you're the first person actually on the podcast that I haven't met before.
Oh, okay.
So welcome.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Very exciting.
And Meghan, who's been on the podcast before, speaks very highly of you. So, of course, I would take her word and bring you on here. But I'll ask you before we start today's topics, how do you know Meghan? Where did you guys actually meet each other?
Book club.
So we have this.
For real, actually?
So
we had this thing called book club.
It started as reading a book, bringing a book to a restaurant
As a book
and
club
reading
would
a
be.
passage, and then it grew into choosing a theme
Yeah, I have an Excel spreadsheet.
Meghan and her spreadsheets.
for restaurants.
Has a list of restaurants and a list of costumes or themes. And so we randomize it. So it'll be okay, we're going to go to, what's an example we've done? Rodney's and we're wearing all red. Or Hawaiian theme and we're
Red
going
Rodney's.
to pawn shop.
Yeah.
And you guys were wearing wigs at one time.
So we
as
did
well.
wigs, we did Spice Girls, we did hat night, we did me and Haley got married, so we wore all white.
Yeah.
So we've done a lot of different things, and we've actually really grown. A lot of people want us at their restaurant because we bring a crowd.
That's so
because
cool.
everyone's
And
like,
it's exclusive.
what are you doing?
No one else can do it with us. It's only the five of us.
Sometimes we'll have honorary members because some of our other friends got a little bit jealous, so they're like, can we come? And I was like, honestly, not really, because the rest of book club doesn't really allow anyone else to come. And they're like, oh, okay, kind of mad about it.
Yeah.
So we're very,
But we stopped reading books now. Now we
You just go for the wine.
drinking.
yeah. So now it's more just like a dinner themed club.
Yeah.
Sure.
So fun.
Yeah. And so
So how we met,
Meghan,
though.
so I'm good friends with Emily, who's also in book club, and then I met Haley, and so Haley and Emily also work with Meghan at Daily Hive.
Yeah.
So then that's how
Everyone started hanging out.
So
Right.
so I was with Meghan and Emily, and then we all just started hanging out all together, and then we decided one night for Pride night, we all wore
Pink
wigs. That was before book club was made, and then
Yeah.
that night we did not a seance, but we all kind of at the end of the night we fell in love with each other, and we all held hands in a circle, being like, "We're gonna be a thing.
Yeah.
We're new best
Were
friends."
there candles in the middle?
I was on the street. We were just, having a great night, wearing all wigs, and we were like, we're a lot of fun. We
Yeah,
like each
this is
other.
gonna be
Let's
a
continue doing this. We're going to be a thing.
Yeah.
And then from that day on, it was every weekend, where are we going? What are we wearing?
Yeah.
I love it.
And then,
Budding friendship.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, for you to know too, Kabir and I, we've known Meghan for a long time. I've known Meghan since I was 11 years old or something like that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we just went to elementary school and then high school together, and that's how we've been friends. And then Kabir met us in high school. So
Okay.
yeah,
So you guys have been friends for a long time.
For a little while.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's cool that this podcast is now expanding to people outside of my friend circle, because so
Yeah.
far it's just been my friends, right? So
Nice.
welcome.
Thank you.
for joining.
Thank you. I'm excited.
Yeah,
Woo.
I'm excited. And today's topics are going to be really good. I'll start with the first question that I planned for us. And it's just to kind of ease us into what we are talking about, which is finding an outlet, finding an emotional or therapeutic outlet. Meghan was telling me that you do art therapy, and that's what I wanted to ask you about. So what is art therapy, and kind of what brought you to doing that?
Yeah. So art therapy is a hybrid profession using psychotherapy and art, obviously. So it's talk therapy with art. So we do different techniques. The therapist creates a safe place for the patient. I work in a hospital setting. So I work in the psych ward with youth, ages 12 to 18. And I will usually bring a directive Sometimes I'll read a poem to kind of get them in the mood. And then whatever they're working through, everyone's kind of different. There's a lot of substance abuse. There's a lot of trauma, anxiety, depression. Everyone's going through something different. But I do a group session, and basically you are just expressing yourself through art. So talk therapy can be kind of difficult, especially with a stranger, to just sit down and be like, hey, I'm your therapist. Tell me your deepest, darkest secrets.
Right.
How easy is that to do? It's kind of hard to get into it. So I start the session out very fun, and I say, let's just have fun. Let's play around with the materials. Sometimes they have never done any art. So usually it's acrylic paint, watercolor, pastel, the basics. And I just say, let's have fun with it. And then, they start to play around. Sometimes if they don't know what to do, I say, close your eyes, take a pen, and just let your arm move. Something always comes out. And by the end of it, they're amazed. And I'm like, okay. So at the end of the session, we do a reflective process. So I'll hold the painting up or the picture up, and I'll say, tell me what you see. And sometimes it's very obvious. If it's like a, trauma, they'll show it. Or sometimes it's abstract and it's just colors, but it has a whole meaning to them because the session's usually about an hour. So sometimes we don't talk. Sometimes we do talk, and they tell me, okay, this color, this red is anger, but it's also passion. And then purple is, oh, I'm feeling calm, but I'm also, growing. So colors mean something different. Shapes mean something different. The materials mean something different.
Yeah.
And materials are a whole nother process, because I also won't use, if a client wants to have a lot of control or needs control, I probably won't give them paints because there's no control with it, and it can get very messy.
Right.
And then it's stressful for them. Art therapy is supposed to be calming. You want to express yourself in a safe place. There's no judgment, and you got to let out whatever you need to let out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I usually say, we're not trying to make a pretty picture. This is art therapy. Like, don't worry about what it's going to look like, because I'm not about, we're not making a masterpiece here. We're doing art about your feelings or whatever you're going through. So sometimes it can be a dark mess. But usually at the end of it, it's really rewarding and like very, very, it's amazing for the client to then see their art and be like, wow, that's where it happened, or that was the trigger for me. And sometimes the art, it's a different part of the brain. And so for people who have gone through traumatic experiences, sometimes you just can't talk about it. But with art, you can make it, and then you can talk about it. And it also will show unconscious thoughts and feelings that you would have never even said.
Yeah.
But then it brings it out using different colors and shapes and whatever they draw. They might not even know that was going on, but then the art brings it out through the reflective process. So it's pretty amazing. I love it. I find it very rewarding. And
I mean, I can tell just listening to you, like, you're so passionate about it. Like, you care a lot about it.
Yeah. And I'm an artist as well. My mom's an artist. My sister is an artist. My whole family is an artist in their own way. And so art has been a huge part of my life. Growing up, I would have a wall at my house, and my mom was basically like, do whatever you want. So whenever friends would come over, I'd be like, let's paint on the wall, So for me, having art as an emotional outlet was very, very helpful to get through things, and to always have a sketchbook, which is also kind of like a journal. I'm journaling now too, but I've always had a sketchbook. I would bring it with me everywhere I go, and just, sketch what I needed to sketch. Or it just kind of went hand in hand when I was going to school to become a psychologist, psychotherapist.
Just become a psycho.
Just a psycho. Yeah. And so, when I was in school, I was going to be a psychologist, and then I worked at a counseling office, and it was just talk therapy for 8 hours a day. And I was like, this is not for me.
There's got to be another
because
way.
I'm an artist. I need to express myself. I can't just sit down. So then I looked up other therapies. The Vancouver Art Therapy Institute in Granville Island showed up, and I was like, okay, this is an expressive therapy. This is calling my name. This is where I'm going. And it's very helpful and beneficial, and it's calming, it's relaxing. You don't have to worry about anything, because when you're doing art, you just get into the zone. and you're not thinking about anything. You're not looking at your phone. You're not anxious. You're just doing whatever you're doing, and you just have to not care, like that's why I always say we're not making a pretty picture. We're just going to go with the flow. Whatever comes out, comes out.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
No judgment, that's
like
the biggest thing.
You're touching on so many things that like we had prepared. No, this is so good. No, this is so good. But it's like all the like things that we had prepared to talk about today. You've hit a lot of those points.
We can go deeper into that.
And we definitely can, and we will. And
Yeah.
it's like you touched on the fact that everybody has different ways of finding therapy and finding an outlet, right? For yourself, being an artist, doing talk therapy, that wasn't going to be it for you, especially if that's the way that you're supporting other people.
Yeah.
If you're going to support them to do it in a way that I guess aligns more with your own way of thinking through art, that's amazing. That's awesome. You also touched on it being like a sketchbook or a journal.
Yeah.
Right. I've talked about journaling in the past on other episodes, and like that's been an outlet for me before. Recently, it hasn't been. I just haven't been doing it as often.
Right. And
but
sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
And it's like at different moments, different things help for different people.
Yeah.
Right. Which is what I love about therapy. Therapy is cool. Like there's so many different ways to do therapy. So that then I'll open up to the group of us here. What kind of has worked for you? Like what ways of finding an outlet have worked for you, and what are they today versus like last week? Like I said, you know what I mean? Like mine changes so frequently, I guess my outlet changes so frequently, but what has been an outlet recently for you that's been good for your mental health?
I think mine changes frequently too. I don't know if I have like one specific coping mechanism or like outlet that I have. I honestly just think like going out and seeing friends is like a way for me to just release and like not think about certain things. The gym has been nice. Just being able to like plug in, do a class, or just like work out normally. I think those are them. And then like sometimes too, I just will start random projects.
You get your spreadsheets out, you know?
Yeah, like sometimes I'll just do random projects, but I think those are like mainly my outlets.
Interesting that you say like hanging out with friends, because I feel like it's almost the opposite for me. I feel more stress-free when I'm able to do things on my own.
Right.
Like be more like
Everyone's
antisocial.
different.
Everyone's different.
Everyone's different.
But also the gym too, for sure.
Yeah.
Like it's like seeing your accomplishments, building up your self-esteem.
Yeah.
Reduces your anxiety for sure.
Like even just like while you're there, you can have a pretty shit day, to use the gym as an example, right?
Yeah.
You can have a pretty shit day, and then if you just go and have a good workout while you're there, your mind is kind of clearing.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's kind of the root of where therapy lies. It's if you're doing the art therapy session while you're there, I'm sure like it's such a great experience, and then the moment after is great too.
Yeah.
Right. You're getting that point of like release, whatever has been stuck in your head is starting to make its way out.
You need to be immersed in whatever you're doing, I think.
Block out the noise of the world.
Yeah, like the gym, you put your headphones on and nothing else matters.
Yeah.
Art, you're in the zone, and everyone's different. So
Another thing I love is just driving with like good music. So nice.
yeah.
I used to like going for just a drive, and just like
I used to too.
It hit a weird point for me though. Like it got to a point where I was anxious about driving and not having a destination. I don't know when that kind of clicked.
No, I'm the same.
But it was like I
still need a
decided I couldn't like
destination.
aimlessly drive anymore. Whereas before it was like, okay, I wouldn't mind just going for a drive, and it'd be like, oh, I'll drive down to the dike or whatever, and I'll go around. I'll got my music playing. But then it got to a point I was like, oh, I don't know where I'm going. Like I need to have somewhere to go.
Yeah.
And so that outlet then stopped being one for
Right.
me. But music for sure has always been an outlet for me. It's just I like to do albums start to finish. I like to always just put one on and like feel like you're in that album
Do you
for a
shuffle
bit.
it, or is it in
Never
order?
shuffle.
Oh.
Never shuffle.
Never shuffle.
will-
You need to know what
I
song
will
is
not
next.
shuffle an album. I'll shuffle a playlist, but I won't shuffle an album. I just
Ruben's
can't
the
do
only
it.
person I know who
I
does that.
never knew that.
But it makes me
Interesting.
feel good. Like I know what's coming up next. And it's almost like once I associate a feeling with that album, I'll know how I'm going to feel at different points listening to that album. Even with
Interesting.
Donda just coming out like a couple weeks ago now, I guess it's been a few weeks, maybe a month ago now. I now know when Moon comes on, which is a really great song that I really like. I know when that song is on. I know by the time I get there, I'm going to be humming along with Kid Cudi at the end of the song, and I'm going to feel good. I know if I make it there, I'm going to be feeling calm.
Interesting. That was me a couple weeks ago where I needed to know what song was next, and I would like call it, and then now I only will have it on random because I don't want to know, because I know the entire playlist and I know what song is coming on next. And I don't want to know now. I'm like, just change it up, you know, surprise me.
I wonder how much of it is like in your life right now, if I feel maybe I need the need for routine, you know what I mean? And this music is almost like routine for me. That's weird. Yeah, that's cool. Taisha, you had said something about not knowing when you even need to confront an emotion until you start doing it.
Yeah.
Right? How often do you kind of run into that with people where they don't even realize what is on their mind, and then they start doing the art and then it comes out? A lot. Yeah.
It happens a lot. Yeah. And especially not necessarily that you're denying you have something going on or an issue or anything, but sometimes you just don't even know where it's coming from or why you're feeling like that. So I try and figure out where it started. Like, what was the trigger for whatever that emotion is. So it's always different.
And I think that that's the important thing, is that you are doing this to discover sometimes too. Like when you're doing therapy, you don't always know what's on your mind and until you start talking about it.
You might start it for no reason at all. But you find it along the way.
And you were talking about something with Kid Cudi, actually. If you don't mind.
All right, of course. So I'll bring up that.
We had like this interesting thing, and it's exactly like what we're talking about right now, where Kid Cudi had been in an interview with Zane Lowe, and he was talking about stuff. But anyways, Caps has it. I'll let him talk about it.
He was discussing his latest album, Man on the Moon 3. So he's in an interview with the representative from Apple Music, and he says,
Zane Lowe, I said
it.
No one knows who that is.
He's cool.
I know who he is now after he had that interview. But he said, I didn't realize that my father's death really had an impact on me in the way that it did until I started writing about it. So his father, I don't even know, did he leave their family?
Well, I guess he died. No, that's what you just said, right?
No,
death.
Wasn't that the main thing?
Where did he go?
Read it one more time.
It's been a long day. All right?
Okay.
Wait, read it one more time.
Because didn't it say in there before?
Yeah, it did. Out myself on camera. Didn't realize that my father's death really had an impact on me. It's been a long day.
Anyways, my point of me like wanting to hear that and you talking about that for art therapy is like, this is why I think an outlet is so important for people to find. Right? For people listening and watching this episode, you need an outlet.
Or else it goes in and then you explode.
Exactly.
And that's when
that's so much worse.
You want to prevent that from happening, right? Like when
it's like a way of regulating your emotions.
Exactly. You need to regulate. Everyone does, you know, and you also need to have a support system. You know, you need to have someone safe to go to when you need someone to talk to, or, you know, when journaling isn't helping or when art therapy isn't helping. You need to have a safe zone.
And Meghan, to go to you for a moment, you had talked about being with friends. That's kind of like an outlet for you too, right? And that can be almost like therapy in a way, of spending time with friends. That's your safe person.
Exactly,
right?
And just being able to talk and like just openly talk to friends. And I think that's the nice thing about having like such good friend groups. Like I've known you guys for so many years, and like our friendship too, like it's just good groups that you can talk to about anything, which is really nice.
It takes your mind off of whatever else is going on, and you know it's
and sometimes I find like you're just so in your head and you need an outside perspective, or you just need to say it out loud. Otherwise you can often like it just gets so confusing in your head, and like you're overthinking things, and I find that happens often. So like
definitely
going to friends is nice.
Would we then say partying is therapeutic?
I would say it's party. It's therapy for me.
It depends. Everyone's different. I mean,
it could be. Right?
Yeah, it can be, right?
Getting blackout drunk.
I mean, that's probably not good for you.
But
as an emotional outlet to say you're, you know, stressed out about something and then you're going to get blackout drunk, well, that's kind of an outlet for you because you're not thinking about whatever was pissing you off because you're blackout.
It's a bit of a Band-Aid. But yeah,
yes, it's definitely
it does the job in the moment, I guess.
You heard it here first. Partying.
I was trying to think like, how do I cope when I'm upset? And I do think like not like getting blackout, but like again being with friends, and if it's a social setting and like you can still talk to your friends when you're drinking.
Yeah.
To be serious for a second on that note, like alcoholism is a real thing.
Yeah.
Right, and so I feel like there are bad outlets. right?
Definitely.
I think there's a way where you can get to an outlet that is maybe more dangerous than it is helpful, or it is that band-aid solution and it becomes this crutch that you lean on sometimes. Something like art therapy is not that, because that's constructive. It's controlled in an environment where you're intentionally going to think through something.
Yeah.
Right. It's the same way that journaling, I don't think, is destructive either. You are writing out your thoughts, listening to music. You're letting this music maybe guide your emotion. But alcohol can help.
But can I also say,
it's like a social drink. I get that part. I'm not saying like, oh, alcohol is an issue.
The other weekend when we were crocheting.
No.
So we had an easy drink, you know, we had one drink and then we were crocheting. So that was very therapeutic and relaxing. You know, we were in the zone trying to figure out what to do, but we also had a drink.
Yeah.
So,
but also devil's advocate, I feel like you can do things like listen to music or go to the gym, but is that an outlet? Like, are you still, is the problem still there?
I get what you're getting
like
at.
you can go to the gym to forget about it, but the problem's still there. So you still should be like talking about it with someone, or like, trying to figure out that solution.
Yeah.
So
Good
really
point.
anything can be an outlet, but is it fixing your problem?
No,
like, what do you,
Yeah. It's like if you're using these, because we said earlier, like literally blocking out the world. When you go to the gym, you put your headphones in, the world's out.
But your
right?
problem's still
Your
there.
problem is still
But
there.
sometimes
there.
you just need a break.
Sometimes you do
Or
just need a break.
if the problem is, like, for example, for myself, I had maybe slight self-esteem issues. So getting like fit has helped me.
Right, was a solution.
But yeah, so that's one aspect of that.
I just know a lot of times for me, like I listen to music to not think about my problems, but then like
I
still
guess
there.
it just depends. I mean, you have to go through it to then grow from it. So however it's going to get you there. Yeah, everyone's got a different emotional outlet.
Yeah. But I feel like that's a really good point. And I wonder then, is talking about it really the only way to finally get an emotion out? You know what I mean? To get a thought out.
No,
You don't think so?
I
guess,
well,
because you're talking about
journaling,
art. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of talking to yourself or writing, I find that very helpful. And I only just started journaling and I really like it. Obviously art therapy is a great thing.
Talk your own thing out. Yeah.
But also talking to a friend. You somehow have to, you have to let your emotions out. If you hold it in, then, it's not, you're not
never gonna,
I feel like you have to go through the emotion.
So then you have to talk about it.
Either to yourself or to somebody, but like Cav's going,
but you have to let it out. You have to let it out. But also, what about, say you're really angry and then you go to the gym or you go boxing and then you punch it out. You have the thoughts going through your head of why you're pissed off and you punch it out and then you leave and you're feeling great.
Right.
But I wonder how many times is that a temporary thing?
I guess it just depends on what your issue is.
Like
how deep is it like an argument with your mom or something?
Yeah.
Is it like deep childhood trauma? Like
Then,
I guess it depends on.
I get that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the smaller things, I feel like the less work is needed to get rid of that thing.
Yeah.
Right? The stuff that's more deep rooted in our childhood, for example, that's stuff that takes a lot of work to get out.
Yeah.
Especially the longer it goes unchecked. You know what I mean? That stuff just develops and you don't even know it's a problem until you encounter it and start talking about it with someone, right? And they're like, oh shit, that's why I'm the way that I am.
Yeah.
It's a weird journey. There's so many ways through it.
There have been so many TikToks where it's like, do you feel like this? It's probably because of this type of trauma. And I'm like,
fuck, like, no. Who's in my house right now?
I don't want to know this.
Yeah. So far, what we've kind of identified is that, of course, everybody has different things that will work for them at different times too, right? Things change, right? We find an outlet that might work for us, and then the next week it could be something different. And that's good. I think the important thing is that you do start to try to find an outlet. Now, on your mental, and Taisha, this is welcome to On Your Mental again, but on your mental, we have talked a lot about relationships. That's a common theme in conversation that comes up here. And what I'll ask all of us now is, do you think it's important that your partner have an outlet, and even would it need to be an outlet that is the same as yours or similar to yours? Do you think that there needs to be some level of like connection there, even with how you express and vent emotions when it's not to each other? Do you think that that's an important thing?
I mean, yes and no. Yes, in the sense that, everyone should have an emotional outlet, or else you're just going to take it out on your partner and then it's just going to cause more problems. But No, in the sense that they don't have to have the same emotional outlet. Talking is obviously great. Communication, you need to communicate in a relationship. But if, say, one person wants to exercise and that's their emotional outlet, and great, and then the other person wants to go for a drive and listen to music, fine, as long as they come back together and, you know, communicate or work things out. However they communicate, whether it's through like verbal or it's through affection or whatever their way is, but I don't think it has to be the same.
I think it's
I feel the
almost
same.
nice.
I feel the same way.
I think it's nice that if they wouldn't be the same, because I think like relationships specifically, sometimes you just need space where like you need your own time to think. And I think if it's the same outlet, you still might feel pressured to do it together. And then at that point, it's like
now your outlet isn't even your own space.
Exactly. So I think it is nice to have your own, or even if it is the same, then you still do it separately sometimes.
But I mean, whatever works for the relationship.
Yeah, that too.
Maybe they want to cry it out and talk it out together. Then great,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Whatever.
That's your
Maybe
way.
they want to
That's
drink
your
a
way.
bottle of wine, cry it out, and
Or maybe they don't want to talk and, you know, go for separate walks. And then they come back together. I don't know. Everyone's different, right?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, so far we've talked about how we deal with our own emotions and stuff, right? But when you're dealing with emotions with another person, that is a whole other like ball game. You know what I mean? It's another thing.
Yeah.
Right? Because then you are learning how each other communicates, and you're learning how to express how you're feeling, knowing how they receive communication too. Yeah, I feel the same way. So like that question wasn't like, oh, like do you agree with this?
Yeah.
I think I totally agree that you should maybe have different ones, but it's whatever way works. I don't know. Like it's not one way or the other. You choose one way and it's fine. But I would be personally a little bit like worried if my partner didn't have an outlet.
Yeah.
You know?
Definitely. Because then it's going to be bottled up and taken out on you and explosions or
insecurities.
Yeah.
Emotional instability
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to deal with that.
No, I wouldn't want to deal with that. Nobody wants to deal
You
with
definitely
that.
want your partner to have an emotional outlet.
Yeah.
You know?
Do you think, and this is just a thought, like, let's say your partner didn't, you know what I mean? Like you meet somebody and like everything's good at the start of a relationship, right? You got your honeymoon phase, everything's great, right? And then as the relationship settles and you start to learn more about how each other actually is, let's say you discover that your partner doesn't seem to have much of an outlet, you know what I mean? Like when things are going wrong, they're not great. Would you, like how much energy do you think you would put out of your own to get them to a place where they can find that outlet? Like how much of that is your responsibility, if it even is your responsibility at all, to try and get your partner to a place like that?
I mean, I think if you are in a relationship with them, you obviously love them or, you know, like them to some extent. So you would want to help them you know, be open and, hey, you know, it kind of seems like you might need to release some tension. Try journaling, try exercising, try going for a run. But
just talk it out.
Or talk it out. But I don't think that, you know, once you say those things of what you should do, the partner either does it or doesn't, then it's not really your, you know, like don't let it bring you down.
I personally, speaking from my own experience and like how I've felt in the past with relationships, and I start to get kind of like defeated around talking about dealing with emotion because I've had kind of bad experiences with how I've run into those conversations, you know, and because of that now, like to answer my own question of would you like want to devote any mental energy to it, I think I've kind of alluded to this in conversations before. I wouldn't want to put too much effort. At least that's how I'm looking at things, not being in a relationship. Is like I wouldn't want to invest so much because I felt kind of defeated in trying to do that before.
But would you want to stay with that person without them having an emotional outlet?
Like, I don't know. Like I feel like I wouldn't want to just like drop something, but I also wouldn't want to deal with that feeling. I don't know.
I think it depends on how much you love the person. I think,
and like how bad the issue is.
That too, and like how much like you want them to stay in your life. Like if they don't have an outlet and it's affecting your relationship, then and you love them, then I think you would try.
Yeah, try, but don't go so far as to ruin your own mental health, you know, to bring you down.
This is a good point. This is interesting to actually to turn this into
you
what
got
we've already
boundaries,
talked about.
right?
Yeah.
Boundaries are
very important. Very important.
Very important.
And it's like we talked about how sometimes there are smaller problems that are more easily fixed, right? your partner's ability or inability to deal with their own emotion could potentially become one of those issues that you also need to deal with, because it is in your life.
Yeah.
It's not your emotion, but their ability or inability to deal with that emotion is now an issue to you. And so that, I guess, is one of those things where how much work does it take? If your partner wasn't able to express an emotion, does going to the gym do it for you? Like, are you able to like tune that out and be like, okay, they're mad at home, whatever, I'm at the gym now, I'm good.
Yeah.
I can come back and now revisit it. I guess those same levels of like what works for us as an outlet works for that too. It's just another space for emotion.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I find when I'm around like any negative energy, I just try to like flee. Like, I feel like there's some people who like try and fix it, or some people who just like are like, you know what, I'm out.
What do you mean by flee?
I'm out. Like
remove yourself.
Like
remove
remove yourself
myself.
from the situation.
Like, even if it's as simple as you're in a group setting and someone's just, you know, being a really big bummer. If it's something, sorry.
A couple names come to mind.
if it's something that I can help, if it's like a, you know, like they're just having a bad day, of course, like I'm gonna be there for them. But if it's a consistent bad energy, then I just find
Can't
it
hang
so
out with
hard to
them.
be
No.
around those people.
There's a bad energy in this room.
Meghan.
Get up.
Yeah.
But no, I agree
But
with
so if
that
they
for
don't have an
sure.
outlet, I can just imagine how just emotionally exhausting that would be to be around
Yeah.
bad energy 24/7.
Definitely.
Especially if it's a relationship and your partner.
But to bring some empathy into this too, you know what I mean? It's like, it's those people got it bad. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
they are struggling to get through whatever it is they're dealing with because they don't have that outlet. This
Yeah.
comes back to the point of this conversation, which is finding an outlet's important. Everybody listening, watching, finding an outlet is
Yeah,
important.
very important.
Right? And yeah, because it
Wait, so
it
are you guys
projects on
fixers
other
or
people.
fleers?
I feel like I'm more of a fixer.
I used to be a fixer. Now I'm like all about like taking out the stress from my life. So
If fleeing does it, you're gone.
Yeah.
I'm more
And
of
I
like
think it depends on who the person, like if it's a random stranger, I'm not going to be like, let me hold your hand. If it's like a really good friend, I'm going to, of course, I'm like, I'm not a horrible person.
We can talk about your feelings.
I feel you.
I almost feel like the opposite. I feel like I'd be more inclined to help out like a stranger or something.
Because there's no attachment.
Right, exactly.
There's no consequence if you fail. To help them. Oh shit! All right, I couldn't do it.
Just a
Couldn't
trick
fix
shot.
it.
Yeah.
Man, no, that's a good question though about being a fix-it or a fleer or a fixer or a fleer. Because in the past, it's a weird word. In the past, I have wanted to fix the way that people deal with emotion, and I feel like a part of it is almost like if they weren't dealing with it a way that I saw as like a good outlet, I wouldn't agree with it. They might say that they're dealing with it, but they deal with it in their own way, right? They might journal, but I don't see them journaling. So from my perspective, it's like, oh, they're not doing anything to help themselves.
Well, you would know if they're doing something because
you would assume it's getting better.
you would see the tension be not as bad, or like you would see them be not as stressed.
So
Whether
I
or
don't
not,
if it
you know,
did.
like you would see you'd see them change.
Yeah, at least if it was working, right?
Yeah.
And then if it wasn't, then you can start to suggest. And
Yeah.
that's a tricky thing too, is like you're not supposed to tell people this is your problem, this is what you need to
Yeah.
do. But how do you go about those conversations,
But,
getting someone to find an outlet?
You know, if it's really ruining their life, then like I would like someone, if I'm doing something in like a group setting that's, you know, pissing a lot of people off, I would want one of my friends to be like, hey, Taisha, maybe don't do this because it makes people feel a little bit uncomfortable, or it's making me uncomfortable. Like I would want to know if I'm doing something to like make people want to flee,
Right.
you know?
Right.
Because some people don't realize things that they say might trigger other people. Some people just aren't conscious of how they behave around others. You know, social cues. Some people don't get those.
A lot of people have bad self-awareness.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it takes, I guess, for the people who don't have that self-awareness, you need someone else to tell you.
Yeah, and then
That's
they'll
a
be like,
totally
"Oh,
fair
wow,
point.
oh, okay, I had no
I
idea."
am being an asshole. I am being a bummer right now.
Yeah,
Right?
right?
Yeah. But those conversations are hard to have, right? Because it's an uncomfortable
Definitely.
thing. But absolutely, it's like if you care about the person, you should have these conversations, right? And
It almost makes it harder if you're closer with them to have that conversation.
because the feeling I get with that is that you are potentially like jeopardizing the relationship. And that comes back to
way.
my own, it's my own, I guess, insecurity of having these conversations with people. Is like, I don't want to make something worse than it is by bringing it up. But I don't think that you can. I mean, it can't be worse than it is if it's one of these situations.
If you don't bring it up, then it can definitely get worse. So nobody really likes confrontation.
Yeah.
But also you also want to be in a relationship where you can be open and honest and communicate about these things that aren't really, that you don't like. Right. So. And
if the confrontation has such a negative connotation, all these C words, confrontation has a negative connotation to it. But if that confrontation is coming from a point of care, right, then it's a good thing to have.
Yeah, and you can word things in a more sympathetic way. You know, obviously you don't say you do this, you do this, and this is pissing me off. It's like
big bummer.
You know, there's different words you can use. And when I went to school for therapy, I have to be very careful with the words that I use, because slight variations can really trigger people.
That's so true.
Right?
What's interesting too is culturally that changes as well. It's like you can speak English in multiple different cultures, but different words are still going to have different connotations. So it comes down so much to how people do talk about these things, especially around mental health. We had a conversation with other friends recently, and in that conversation they were talking about, in their culture, it's Filipino culture, that typically mental health isn't discussed. Right. And that in that space, you don't bring up these things. You just push it away because you're supposed to just be strong. Yeah. So just use that as an example. Other cultures look at mental health different ways. And so that might mean that someone might not want to have these conversations, might not want to be made aware of how they are, I guess, presenting themselves in a group setting, for example, based on their own just history and their own family. Yeah.
In I think a lot of cultures, emotions are hidden, right? You're supposed to just put on that happy face and go through life. And a lot of men can't show emotion. A lot of, fathers won't let their sons cry, right? And I see that a lot with the kids that I work with, them unable to express themselves. So
that's sad.
Yeah, very sad, which is why you're doing a great thing, because everyone needs to talk about their emotions and how they're doing mentally, emotionally, spiritually, everything.
Absolutely. I agree. I agree. Full circle. It's like, men aren't, we've talked about it plenty of times on here, men aren't supposed to show how they're feeling. You're supposed to keep everything put together, right?
But then they're going to explode.
Yeah. And we've talked about that a few times today, right? That breaking point, that explosion moment, that's not good. Right, that's way worse and harder to deal with than it is to slowly start chipping away at stuff. That makes me think too. It's not what we're talking about. It's not an overnight thing. It's not a one-time thing either. Yeah, you don't go to art therapy one time and you're good. Yeah, you know what I mean? It takes repeated conscious effort to make these changes and to feel better about your emotions. Yeah. Right. It takes a lot more than just a one-off.
Yeah, and to be aware of like what am I doing that's bothering me? Okay, maybe don't do that. Then, avoiding toxic people who bring you down, setting boundaries and sticking to those boundaries, and, not letting people walk all over you, and saying no when you need to say no.
Yeah, there's so much that you can learn from therapy. It's great.
Yeah.
I'll ask us one kind of like last question here. What was it that led you to find the things that worked for you as your outlet? Like, what things brought you to what worked? We've talked about what things do work, but we haven't really gotten to what got us to that point. I'll use myself as an example where I've talked about it before on the podcast, where I was really stressed out last year with work. I was really frustrated because I didn't know where my job was leading anymore. For the past 5 years, I had this goal and I knew what I'm working towards. And then when the pandemic hit, things shifted. Things just weren't the same anymore. And so I didn't have the same path for me to work towards, and I was feeling kind of dead-ended. I wasn't feeling progression anymore. So I got really frustrated, and I knew I needed something to vent this emotion, because all I was doing was going to work, and then I was coming home and I was going to the gym, and that wasn't doing it for me. I wasn't able to get anything out there. So I decided to seek counseling. So that was like my thing. I was pushed to a point where I knew it was going to lead to an explosion if I didn't address it. And so I think that, again, for everyone listening and watching, you're going to have your own ability to identify your own emotion, right? I knew that this wasn't good. I knew that this was building to something worse. So I decided to do something. So then it was counseling, and through counseling, they recommended journaling. So I started journaling. And then after a little while, came up with the idea to do this podcast. And now this has been my outlet, right? Like I get to set all these conversations up. If I have something on my mind, it's going to be a topic and I'm going to talk about it. I have a date set and I know that it's going to be a thing. So that's what it was for me, at least in most recent memory, was I reached a boiling point where it was like, this ain't going to cut it anymore. If I don't do something about this, I'm going to like blow up. Yeah.
I think when I was looking for my outlet, it was when I was leaving my relationship, that like 5-year relationship. So at that point, it's just finding out, you know, who are you as an individual? What do you like to do? You know, even though it's seeing friends, it's still by like you're deciding by yourself, not with a partner, what you want to do. So I think that was my point of, you know, figuring out, do I want to work out more, which I did. That's when I started working out a lot. Obviously hanging out with friends a lot more. So I think just, the end of a relationship.
And that's a tough moment to get through too. Right? Like always, there's no such thing as an easy breakup, right? And I've decided that that's the case. In the past, I thought like, oh, there's a way to end amicably and all that. No,
it'll always be
you
tough.
might think there's always something that's harder than you might even think that it is at the time, right? And then it creeps up on you like, oh shit, this isn't going as smooth as I thought, you know?
For me, it's just like, what made me not upset? Like, when did I just feel better? And that was when I was with friends or when I was working out. And
and we kind of talked about that in our episode a little bit, right? Like we talked about once you ended that relationship, it was like you started to realize like, okay, like towards the end of it rather, you started to realize that you needed those relationships with your friends, because you were saying that we went into lockdown and it was COVID and all that. And that part got taken away from you. And it's almost like you knew that it was an outlet before, but you didn't like fully know this is my outlet. Now that it's gone, I know that was my outlet. I need that back. Yeah, that's a good
point. Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, that's a very good point. What was taken from you? Because that was
because like if you're doing good, right? If you're cruising, you're fine.
Yeah.
Right. If something happens to throw you off, that can almost get you to that point. I guess that's like, the same
what
experience.
Do you need to like do to build up your happiness?
That's usually what it is, though. You know, deep down something's off, and you're not as you're not 100%, right? And then it's like, okay, what you need to think about what do you need to do to get to that 100% or get you back to that happy self that you used to be.
Yeah.
So I'm similar to both of you guys. It was, felt I wasn't 100%. And then it was like, okay, I need to take a look at my life, step back and what's working and what's not working, cut the shit out that's not working and do more of what makes me happy. And then sticking to it. Yeah. And it's almost like you can like rebuild a foundation around those things too, right? Like you can almost like double down on the stuff that did work. Yeah. You know, I like that approach that it sounds like the three of us are done. I'm still going to get to you, Kat. I like that approach that we've kind of talked about here, where it is finding those pieces sort of one at a time and maybe just looking at everything like one at a time in your life. Does this make me feel good? It's like the Marie Kondo shit. Yes. Marie Kondo, yo. Does this bring you joy? Yes. Yeah. And then you Marie Kondo your life, but not with physical things, as like the things around you in your life.
I know that reference.
Do you know that?
No.
Really? There was like such a big thing.
You know it, right, Marie Kondo?
No.
Oh my God.
It's like this,
you might have to explain
this little
a little
really
bit.
cute like little Japanese woman. Yeah. She has this like method of cleaning your house, right? It's like full on like Netflix show. Yeah. And basically
it was huge. It was huge.
Yeah, if you look at it.
I was just living under a rock, I guess.
If you look at it, if it brings you joy, keep it. If it doesn't,
I've heard of that.
Give it away.
Phrase.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's like you can look at a shirt. Like, does this shirt make you happy?
Okay.
So Marie Kondo your life, and you can look around.
More sort of like a minimalist.
That's the way that she does it. Yeah.
And everything should like bring you joy that you surround yourself with.
You can strip things down. Yeah. There's
I love stripping
things down. There's a term in to get like technical for a second called with like computer stuff called minimum configuration, where if you're trying to figure out a problem with a computer, you take out all the parts except the bare bones, like what's necessary, and then you start adding things back in until it stops working again. You find the problem that way. And so that's kind of like a similar approach here. Is you're like, okay, I'm not feeling good. Let's take away some things and then start like figuring out which parts worked. You know what I mean? And to use myself in my example, it was like, okay, things were going good. All of a sudden I'm feeling really stressed out. I don't have a clear path of what's going on. Okay, I need to take a step back. What's not working for me? I was still feeling good going to the gym. I was still feeling good seeing my friends. What wasn't feeling good was work. But what can I do about that? Because I can't change my job. So I have to do something about that piece, and I can address that. I can change things out, or I can add on to it. I added another piece, which was counseling. I added another thing into the configuration. I was feeling better. You know. Anyways.
Did you figure that all out by yourself, or did you like talk it out with friends?
I talked about it with a manager at my work. I talked about it with a manager at my work, and they were like, yeah, I've done counseling and it felt really good, and like, we can do that through our work, so try it. And so I did, and it worked out. Yeah, I had a good relationship with that manager. They don't work there anymore, but no.
Nice.
How was yourself, Cabs? What got you to figuring out your outlet? Because you talked about self-esteem and things with the gym.
I don't know if I mean, I don't mean to boast, but I don't know if I like have found like a true, I feel like I haven't found like a true emotional outlet, but that's because I don't think I need one. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I haven't like found the right thing yet. But
no, I agree with that. Sometimes I don't
like, I feel like I'm emotionally stable and everything. My life feels like I'm content with everything going on.
That's
right
good.
now.
That's great.
Yeah. If you don't need to,
I don't mean to boast.
Yeah.
But no, like the gym is awesome for me, just because it's like to block out the noise of the world, as like said before. But watching movies is really good for me too.
I forget. Yeah, you're such a big movie guy.
Like be antisocial for my therapeutic time. But I think I just found that through with self-esteem issues early, and then my brother used to work out a lot, so they got me into that.
Well, I mean, we've talked, I guess, about therapy from the lens of, if you have things to work through them. Start to try working through them. But if you don't feel that you have things to work through, that's good.
Yeah.
Right? If you're not feeling like there's something under there, if you're just feeling good, that's great. That's a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
So boast away, buddy. Yeah, I think
That's
cool.
awesome.
Yeah. That is cool though. That is cool. Because, I mean, you can feel good, but it takes that derailing moment, right? Like we've talked about it with a relationship ending, with me feeling stressed out with work. You can feel good, but maybe there will be a derailing moment. But what would be cool, and this is, I don't mean cool in the sense that, if you run into problems, it'd be cool. Like what I was going to say is, like, if you ever did get to a moment where you were like needing to have an outlet that is more direct, like art therapy or speaking to a counselor, things like that, maybe through having had these kinds of conversations leading up to that, you already know what to look for when you need help.
Yeah.
Right?
So it's the preparation.
It's the prep. It's the prep for it, right?
Yeah.
And that goes for the people, the audience of the podcast, right? Like, you might be feeling great, and if you are, great. But listening to this, learn to like keep these things in your back pocket so that you know what to try when things aren't feeling good. Because there's no way, I don't think anybody makes it through their whole life without having some kind of trauma that they got to deal with, some kind of negative emotion that they got to get out, right?
Yeah.
So like, build your arsenal of tools. Get your toolkit.
Get
you know?
your toolkit.
Get your toolkit. Get your toolkit.
Your doomsday kit.
Your doomsday. Yeah.
It's coming.
Yeah.
It's coming.
Yeah.
It'll be great content for the pod.
Oh yeah. We'll just get Kabir's devastation moment. Yeah. I don't know. Hopefully it doesn't come for a while. But yeah. I feel like this is a good kind of spot to sort of like tie things back together. To summarize everything, it's important that we have an outlet. It's important that if you need an outlet, you go looking for an outlet. To use just your last example here, Kabir, it's also important to maintain a little bit, right? Like to continue to have conversations with people just about how you're feeling, even if you're feeling good, is a good thing. Because I think we've touched on it from a few of us. You might uncover something that you didn't really even know was there that you're thinking about. And then once you're starting to talk about it or get it out there, it shows up, right? Using Kid Cudi's example, using your clients and your patients' examples, right? That can happen. I've felt that when I was talking to my counselor before, right? It's like we were just talking about, and I would start my conversation going, oh yeah, I think I'm pretty good. But I mean, like, there was this thing, right? And it's like this other stuff comes out. Yeah, I think finding an outlet is very important. And I think it's something everybody needs, but it takes some work to identify the things that work for you.
Yeah.
Right? There's going to be a different outlet for everybody, and that outlet might also change at different points in your life.
Exactly.
You don't have to stick to one. You can try a whole bunch. You get your toolkit, your toolbox, and then you get to go. Right? Yeah. Thank you, Taisha, for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
I really appreciate you being here.
Yeah.
Thank you, Meghan, for coming back. Round 2 on the podcast.
Hey, no problem.
Hey.
I'm here next week.
Actually, you're not.
Oh, am I not?
You might not. I think this
Thank
might be.
God,
I don't know.
man.
We'll see.
You're cut.
But yeah, I hope everybody listening, watching enjoyed the episode. I really enjoyed the talk today.
Yeah, me
it's
too.
It's cool just learning what works for different people, right? I mean, I don't do art therapy because I've talked about before, I don't consider myself very artistic, and I would shy away from the idea of painting. But exactly like you said, you're not painting a beautiful picture. That's not the point of art therapy. You are doing it to get emotions out in a way that
you should
doesn't
try it
talk.
then
Maybe
to
I
see
should.
what
Paint
comes
night.
out.
Yeah.
I should see what's up.
Let's get your wig ready.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get my pink wig. I'll show
exactly.
up. Yeah.
It'll be book
Yeah.
club.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll read more than a passage. Yeah. Anyways, thank you so much, and thank you everybody for listening and watching. I hope you all enjoyed this week's episode. If you haven't already, make sure that you're subscribed to the channel. That way you know when new episodes are coming out, and we'll see y'all next week. Peace.